So welcome back to my channel. The channel name is What If Naruto Fall in Love with Nezuko. This is the first part of the series. So let's start the series. They had walked for what seemed like the entire day, from sunrise all the way to almost sunset, with little in terms of training or enjoyment to be found in between, or rather, any training that he'd consider beneficial in any way at least. His master and trainer in the shinobi arts, the legendary Sannin Jiraiya, had been very clear in his instructions to also train him in the legendary art of patience, something which had caused his young ward to loudly groan in disappointment. The young ninja in training, the somewhat infamous knucklehead Naruto Uzumaki, wanted nothing more than to get stronger, to get better, to learn more and more jutsus so that he could get his life back on track to what it had been almost a year ago, before the missing nin and criminal known as Orochimaru had invaded and killed the closest thing most of them had to a grandfather. Before the terrorist organization known as the Akatsuki had entered his home village hellbent on kidnapping him, before his best friend had turned his back on all of them, joining one of their greatest enemies while leaving the blonde broken and beaten on the muddy ground as the rain washed out what was left of their bond. Naruto violently shook his head, slapping his whiskered cheeks in an effort to push those thoughts out of his mind. It didn't help to sulk, it didn't help to be sad, he had his goals clear. Step 1, get stronger. Step 2, drag Sasuke back to their village, the Hidden Leaf, otherwise known as Konohagakure. Step 3, become Hokage, the leader of his village and the greatest ninja to ever live. There were possibly a few more steps that needed to be added in there, somewhere, but he didn't much care for planning. Still, that did leave him with his current predicament, even after having spent a good number of months with the perverted Sannin that was admittedly a very good teacher and an insanely powerful shinobi. Naruto still felt that he ended up as a second fiddle whenever the man decided it was time for more of his research, and, if his time with the man had taught him anything, he was sure he could read the guy and know of his intentions before they even left Jiraiya's head. As such, Naruto, while walking down the dirt road with Jiraiya for what seemed like an eternity, was already prepared for the older man's spontaneous idea to prop up. Ah, now isn't that a refreshing smell and sight? Jiraiya mused as he stretched out his arms, looking no worse for wear for someone who had been walking for about 14 hours straight. Before him was the entrance to a small little village, with a few shops and eateries scattered throughout, and undoubtedly a woman's bathing house or two somewhere. Seems like forever since we've stopped and relaxed ourselves. Why are you glaring at me? You expect me to buy that we just so happen to walk all day long and we just happen to reach a place where you can go peek at women instead of continuing my training? Naruto shouted at him, which caused Jiraiya to quickly move and cover the brat's mouth with his hand, signaling at him to lower his voice, red in the face as he was sure several nearby villagers heard him. Hell, it was Naruto. Konohagakure probably heard him, even with the massive distance between the two villages. Then again, for how close they were to the village entrance, not a single villager could be spotted. He knew it was late, but was it really that slow a business day for them? Still, it would probably mean there could be even more material for him to research on if he timed it right, but, for that to work, he'd have to fix a little certain loudmouth. Pipe down, will ya? Jiraiya told him, as a muffled Naruto kept on arguing even if nothing intelligible could come out. Do you want my research to be ruined? We've been through this already. 6 days for training, 1 day for me time. And that also means 1 day for you time, whatever that means to you. So stop being a brat and, ouch. Jiraiya ended up releasing the boy as soon as Naruto bit down onto his hand, glare still in place. Do you think that bastard Orochimaru also tells Sasuke, hey, we've been training for 6 days straight, why don't we take it easy today and go peek at Four Eyes while he showers? Huh. Naruto blasted out, doing a very fine impression of the notorious snake Sannin while he was at it, which caused the elder man to go from clenching his aching hand to snickering in a heartbeat. That'd be pretty funny, honestly, he admitted. You know what I mean. Yeah, however, Jiraiya started, and in a flash, Naruto found himself flat on the ground, his back against the dirt, with his master's foot planted firmly onto his chest. He realized the elder man had done a leg sweep so fast that the boy had not even seen him move, and he was now rendered effectively immobile. You seem to be overlooking the actual importance of rest and all it can help in becoming stronger. Of course I'm tired, we've been walking all day. Naruto protested, but Jiraiya merely shook his head. Listen knucklehead, he explained, much like the muscles in the body, chakra is something that only grows when the body is resting. You need to train yourself, that's true. But even someone with your abilities is going to end up burned out if you don't allow your body to rest and show the fruits of all the training you're putting it through. Every powerful shinobi knows this. Even someone like Orochimaru, and Sasuke. Naruto muttered, not entirely convinced but knowing he honestly didn't have much ammunition to use to argue in his favor. As Jiraiya stepped off him, the orange-clad blonde stood back up, brushing the dirt off his clothes as he turned to look back onto the little village. Maybe Jiraiya was right, and a little rest wouldn't hurt. He was hungry after all, and it had been a while since they visited a village that offered ramen, so maybe he'd be lucky enough to get some here. So, go on, go eat your ramen. Jiraiya told him with glee. How'd you know that's what I was thinking? Naruto looked at him in shock, which caused Jiraiya to narrow his eyes at the boy. Do you ever think of anything else? He told him, if it's not training, it's ramen, and if it's not that, it's Sasuke this, Sakura that or Kakashi something or the other. You really aren't that hard to read, you're one to talk. Naruto argued back as the duo began to make their way to the village. Spring Hills the sign read, which made Naruto even more certain of his master's true intentions. You only think of naked chicks and writing scenarios you'll never take part in your crappy books. How dare you? Jiraiya shot back, sounding the most offended Naruto had ever heard. The man, they are not crappy, and I'll have you know I have conquered a shipload of women, some so pretty you'd fall over on your ass if you ever laid your virgin eyes on them. Yeah, whatever. Naruto brushed him off, waving his hand in front of his face like if he was trying to shove a fly away. The prettiest girl you've ever hit on is probably Granny Tsunade, and she probably hit on you back, if you catch my drift. Ah, there's no getting through that empty head of yours, is there? Jiraiya lamented, as the two reached a fork on the road, dividing the small village into different sections. I always tell you to come join me in my research, yet you barely do so. Some Hokage you'll turn out to be. What's that? Naruto pressed on, ready to fight, but Jiraiya placed his open palm on the young ninja's head, patting him lightly. Please take my advice and get yourself some rest, Jiraiya told him, his tone now much softer and warmer, something which always caught Naruto utterly off guard. Go and eat your ramen and try to relax a bit, we'll continue our training tomorrow. As Jiraiya began to walk away, Naruto noticed how the older man had left a few bills of Ryo tangled up on his hair. Naruto quickly took the money offered to him, and as he heard the pervy sage tell him not to spend it all at once, he couldn't help but smile. For all his faults, he really felt at ease whenever he was with Jiraiya. It was strange, a feeling he couldn't quite describe, but not unlike how he felt whenever he had been around his old team, the currently broken Team 7, or with his previous teacher, Irika. Then his stomach growled loudly, almost as if the nine-tailed demon living inside was hungry too, and Naruto began to skip towards the nearest food joint. The hyperactive ninja bounced on the road, on the walls, on the roofs and even on the lampposts. As he managed to reach his destination, he landed right outside the entrance. A small little food shop not unlike Ichiraku's, but it was here that Naruto noticed something, or rather, he began to realize what he had been seeing since the two of them had gotten there. There was nobody there. All the shops seemed closed, the streets were barren, and not much could be heard aside from a few crickets chirping every now and then. It was honestly a little eerie. But Naruto's biggest fear in the moment was that he would be left without food, something that he could most certainly not allow. So, just to be sure, he moved the curtain covering the shop's entrance to the side, and he was met by the barrel of a shotgun that went off right onto his face. Or rather, had he not had his senses trained to the degree they were, it would not have been a pretty sight. Dodging the blast by ducking out the way at the last second, Naruto instinctively took out a kunai from his ever-handy pouch, tackled his would-be murderer onto the back wall of the shop, holding him in place by pushing the shotgun onto his or her chest, carefully aiming the barrel upwards away from either of them, and placing his kunai right across the person's throat, feeling as his attacker's jugular pulsed right onto the sharpness of the blade. Let me guess, Naruto voiced, his voice half threatening, half sarcastic, I'm today's lucky customer. What's the prize aside from a shotgun blast right to the, you? The shooter looked a lot less like what Naruto had imagined him to be, not so much a big bulking man with expensive sunglasses on, and more a shivering little boy on the verge of tears. He was almost as big as the shotgun itself, and Naruto was outright impressed that such a little kid had managed to fire off such a cumbersome weapon in the first place. I'm like the last person qualified to say this, but, Naruto began, unsure of what the hell was going on, but sensing deep down that he was not getting any ramen tonight. You really shouldn't play with stuff like this, it's dangerous and stuff. Yeah, Naruto tried, but he couldn't quite figure out what he was even supposed to be doing here. Please, if you take me, the kid spoke through tears, just take me to wherever you took her, I don't want to be alone. Took her. Naruto quickly picked up on that meaning, and his eyes quickly narrowed as his sense of protector to anyone in need took over. He quickly placed the shivering boy down, putting the kunai away and carefully getting the shotgun away from them both, bending down to meet the kid at an eye level. Who did they take? And who took her? My sister, the boy spoke up, and Naruto noticed that he couldn't be older than 7, maybe 8, mighty strong grip for such a shrimp, granted, but still, but, you aren't a kidnapper. Nope. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, a wandering shinobi. For the moment, Naruto replied to the question the boy's eyes seemed to ask, as he pointed to himself proudly with his thumb, flashing the little helpless kid a reassuring smile. So you're in luck. Normally a guy like me would cost you a fortune to hire, but just for tonight, I'ma help you out for free, just so you don't wind up murdering any potential customers. Shinobi? The confused kid asked. It means ninja. Naruto answered, now then, your sister, tell me about her. Is she older, or younger? Do you have a photo of her or something, or better yet, do you know who took her? I'll go find her right away. Really? The kid lit up as Naruto told him this, but just for a moment, as if his hopes were crushed as soon as they appeared when he realized the true gravity of the situation. Naruto looked on, confused, but kept on smiling if anything to reassure the kid. He never went back on his word after all, and he wasn't planning on starting now. She's older, the kid spoke up, seeming to be trying his best to form coherent sentences and answer what Naruto had asked him to. She takes care of me, I have photos, but, I don't know where they are. I can look, I can. He began to cry again, and Naruto's gaze softened as he patted the kid of the head. Hey, that's alright, just tell me how she looks like, he reassured, and I'll have her back here in no time, and, if you know who took her, that would also help a lot. I do, the kid responded, still in tears, but slowly calming himself with Naruto's presence alone. Good, let's hear it, Naruto replied, as he began to ponder who could have done such a terrible thing. He didn't see any evidence of a struggle or a fight, so it was clearly someone skilled. If it had even happened here, maybe it had been somewhere else, which would in turn make this a little harder. What was he going up against? Another ninja? Unlikely, he'd imagine, maybe some cartel guys, like the one that had hired Zabuza and Haku way back then. They seemed to favor small places like this, away from shinobi, or maybe it was just a crazy ex-boyfriend, like the ones in Pervy Sage's stories. Naruto thought he was ready for whatever it was he was going to face, but as soon as he saw the look the boy gave him he felt his blood run cold. It was not an analogy, not a comparison, or at least, it clearly didn't feel like it. The little boy knew what he had seen, and nothing Naruto or anyone could say could change his mind, and, for just a moment, Naruto believed it too, and for that very moment, he thought that maybe he would be confronting something he had not at all been trained to fight. It was, the little boy answered, his voice ice cold, a demon. Tired face. It was already dark out, with not much lighting to shine their path forwards aside from the half-visible moon and a scattered few stars decorating the night sky. The dirt road he walked on was uneven, which made him feel like he was zigzagging in between all the trees instead of being allowed to walk straight to his destination. Not that it mattered much, as arriving any sooner than now would be a waste of time, as what he needed to do could only be done beneath the darkness of the night. He paused for a moment, his steps coming to a halt as he began to hear a soft sound coming directly from behind him. It startled him briefly, before he realized what it was and just how long ago it had been since he had heard it. At this, the young demon slayer Tanjiro Kamado smiled fondly, as the sounds of his younger sister softly snoring on the box given to by their master made their way onto his ears. How long had it been since he had heard such a human sound from her? She slept a lot, that much he knew, but not once had he heard her snore, or even twist and turn in her sleep. Whenever his little sister Nezuko slept, it looked more like a corpse or a person in comatose as opposed to a young girl sleeping to regain her strength. Did she even dream? He didn't know, and what little he could communicate with her amounted to simply him pushing her forwards and her obeying. A far cry from the sheer tenderness and with his little sister once possessed when she was still amongst the living. Tanjiro violently shook his head, slapping his tired cheeks in an effort to push those thoughts out of his mind. It didn't help to sulk, it didn't help to be sad, he had his goals clear. He had long promised that he wouldn't let such things cloud his mind. Such things could and would slow his progress, affect his ability to fight and protect people, his sister included. He knew what he had to do, and he was more or less on the right path to do it: save Nezuko, kill Kibutsuji Muzan and any other demons that stood in his way, be they lower moons, upper moons, or even middle moons if Muzan decided to get creative. Message for Tanjiro. Message for Tanjiro. A familiar-sounding crow crowed as he flew over the siblings, circling above Tanjiro's head briefly before he landed on the boy's outstretched arm. That's a first, Tanjiro noted, as he softly patted the bird on the head, still marveling at how it took him 15 years on this world to know that some animals could actually talk. I'm just about to reach my destination right now, so I didn't expect you to drop in before I even had the chance to behead this demon. Don't tell me I have another mission ready before I even had the opportunity to unsheath my blade. Incorrect. The crow replied, as he pointed with his beak to a few pieces of paper tied to his leg. Tanjiro quickly removed them from their messenger, noticing 2 different notes directed at him. The crow seemed to nod at the boy, before flying away, but not before adding, "Best of luck on your mission." "Yeah, thanks." He didn't even let me thank him properly, Tanjiro mused, as he turned his attention back to the messages at hand. "Would you look at that, Nezuko? We got some crow service mail, maybe it's a good omen for this next job, don't you think?" His sister could still be heard snoring softly, buried in a sleep so heavy that nothing short of a fight would probably wake her, and again, her older brother couldn't help but smile and get teary-eyed over such a simple, dumb and yet so human thing from her. "Let's see then," he continued, turning his attention to the first page, noticing that the letter he was looking at was insanely wet. For some reason, did this catch rain? I mean, it's not fully drenched, as the ink is still mostly visible, but, he voiced, as he read on, realizing the letter had been sent by his friend, partner, and fellow demon slayer Zenitsu Agatsuma. And just like that, the reason why the paper was wet made a whole lot more sense. "Tanjiro. It's me, Zenitsu. This is horrible. Like, I mean it, I'm probably going to bite it for sure this time. Thanks to that dumb train, we are now getting sent on even more dangerous missions. Like, why? We can barely fight lower moons, and what are they expecting us to do? Fight upper ones? I tell you, this is it, the day I die. And don't think I've forgotten that it's thanks to you I'll die an unmarried man. I swear I'll haunt you once I die for that, but not too much, because I also like you. Speaking of Mono, I mean, how's Nezuko? This next part is for her, let her read it." "I'd rather not," an amused Tanjiro muttered. "Nezuko. My sweet, adorable, strong, radiant beauty. How are you? Do you miss me?" "Well, I miss you so much. Every night I dream of the day I get to see you again, even if this this organization is insistent that I die every time they send me out, but, even now, as I write you this, tears streaming down my cheeks as I realize my mortality, one thing keeps me going, your beauty. Your hair. Your eyes, which may I add are a little creepy but in the best way possible. So please wait for me, Nezuko, for I will somehow survive this in order to come back and see you again. With much love, your pal Zenitsu. P.S. Take care of your brother, he is strong, but sometimes I feel he tries to take on the whole world on. I just want you both to know, that if it's for him or for you, I'll fight. I will probably die, but hey, I'll at least tire the demon enough that his knuckles will hurt after he punches me to death." This was not the emotional way I wanted to end this letter. Tanjiro couldn't help but smile at the emotional mess of a letter his friend had sent, and nodded briefly as if replying to Zenitsu, "Fine, you win, I'll give this to Nezuko. No promises she'll understand it, but hey, best I can do." Then he turned to the other letter, and he felt mentally slapped. It wasn't a letter, it was a drawing, a very poor drawing at that, of a pig, wielding a sword on his mouth, standing atop of a bunch of stick figures with their eyes all crossed out. Inosuke, was all Tanjiro could say. As he tried to make sense of the picture, he could clearly picture the scenario in his head. I don't write no letters. The third member of their demon-slaying trio, Beast Master Inosuke Hashibara, shouted out defiantly, as Tanjiro's crow flew about, glaring at the boar-like swordsman. Hell, I don't write at all. So go away, I have my mission already. Tanjiro and Zenitsu have agreed to begin writing to one another, the crow replied, looking as done as a crow could. Who cares? Inosuke barked back, let them waste their time. In the meantime, I'll be swimming in slayed demons. Me, the great Lord Inosuke, while they marvel at my mastery, and stuff. The crow paused, then remembered what Zenitsu had told him when he handed the letter to him. He sighed, annoyed at the lengths he'd go to help these kids out, even if just a little. Still, the blonde's words did have some weight to them. Here's a little trick I learned from Tanjiro. Challenge his ego, Zenitsu had said, then he'll agree to anything. No problem, the crow told the boar. Before he laid out his bait, Tanjiro and Zenitsu did inform me that they were much better in the art of correspondence than you, so it is to be expected. I will now be on my way to. What the hell did you say? Inosuke growled so harshly that the crow felt it had fallen into the clutches of a predator, as the eyes on the swordsman's boar mask seemed to light up in sheer rage. They are not better than me. I, Inosuke, can totally make better letters. Beautiful letters. Filled with letter-wise stuff. Here, you bear witness to my greatness. Give me a paper and a writing thing. Then the boar proceeded to draw. See, now they don't have to read no boring words. He explained as he showed of his masterpiece. Smiling from ear to ear in a display of pride that was lost to all given that his mask covered any and all facial features. Instead, they'll instantly know how much as I'm kicking. See, that on top is me. And those on the bottom are the demons. Amazing, ain't it? The crow said nothing. I may have to give my feathered friend a thank you gift for all of this, a still amused Tanjiro noted. Regardless, he carefully tucked both letters away onto his clothing, keeping them safe so he could show them to Nezuko later, because, even if the two of those guys were a far cry from the description of sanity, Tanjiro could not be more thankful for having met the two of them, even in such a dark and bleak world, that had taken everything from him, and had forced him to live clinging onto the shred of what was left of his little sister. Whenever he was around Zenitsu and Inosuke, he felt like he had actually gained two brothers. And that gave him far more strength to carry on than he'd ever be able to properly convey onto words, written or otherwise. With that in mind, the young teen continued his way towards the barely visible Spring Hills village, where his mission objective laid in wait. But his short walk was brought to a sudden halt the moment he felt something tangle up onto his ankle and gave the boy a tight pull directly upwards, almost knocking the sibling duo upside down. A swift slice from his holy blade cut through the rope like it was nothing, allowing for an uninjured Tanjiro to land back at the spot he had been pulled from. His eyes wide with surprise, yet his senses now fully aware of his surrounding and awaiting a follow-up attack. A trap. He noted softly, as to not attract any unwanted attention. Never seen a demon do that. It was almost like the ones that. Then he was pulled again, in the very same way. A clearly flustered Tanjiro proceeded to quickly cut the second rope with another sword slash and landed gracefully back on the ground, this time taking care not to fall for the same trap thrice. They laid out a second trap right under the first one. Quite clever. Even if the traps are nothing like masters, still, I can't afford to get sloppy now. The boy's acute sense of smell took over all the senses, and within moments, he had registered a proper scent likely belonging to the person behind the traps. Furthermore, set up nearby, he could sniff out several more traps, of varying degree of originality, lying in wait for him. That's strange, the Slayer thought, as he pieced together the would-be scenario thanks to his ever-helpful nose. I can only pick up one distinct scent, and boy is it distinct, but, it's all over the place, and pretty recent too. To do all this, it feels like it's the work of a group, yet I can only pick up on one. No matter, one is enough. Maybe they can mask their scent. But if I can find one, I can reach the rest. This mission might be a little bit harder than we anticipated, so it seems like I'll have something to brag about to Zenitsu and Inosuke after all. And with that in mind, his sword at hand, and a confident smirk in his face, the young swordsman began to dash towards the source of the scent, bypassing all the remaining traps with ease, as now, with their scent as clear as day to him, they could no longer take him by surprise. During all this, as the boy made a mad dash towards his would-be target, the sleeping girl did not stir. She continued to sleep soundly, dreaming of days long gone by. Tired face. Can all ninjas do that? The little boy asked Naruto, now having calmed down a great deal more, much to the latter's relief. The little boy, named Yahiko, which Naruto finally managed to wrestle out of him, looked at the older boy in awe, as if looking up at a superhero of sorts, and, of course, Naruto would not be bothered to correct him if he were to voice it. Well, some of them can. But, don't sell my technique short, almost nobody can match the sheer extent that I can use it in. Naruto boasted as Yahiko eyed him, his expression unreadable, which made Naruto have a hard time deciphering if the kid was impressed or disappointed. So just you wait, Naruto continued. Deciding to consider the kid impressed and get on with it, I'll have your sister back in no time. I never did quite describe her, Yahiko voiced, his tone sounding worried, as if he were to start crying again. Hearing this caused Naruto to sweat a bit, rubbing the back of his head with a dorky expression. Oh, yeah, we sort of skipped over that, he sheepishly replied, just that she's about my age, and she has your hair color, right? So, what else can you tell me about her? Would it help? What do you mean? A confused Naruto asked, closing his fox-like eyes and turning his head to the side. Well, Yahiko tried to explain, even if he didn't sound that certain himself, you really aren't here, are you? Isn't that how you told me it works? Oh, guess so, the clone replied, realizing that he couldn't convey the information back to his main self unless he cancelled the jutsu, which would in turn leave the poor kid alone again, which was the reason he had left a clone there in the first place. Ah, don't worry, I'll figure it out. Don't think I'll run into dozens of damsels in distress this time of night, do ya? As the shadow clone conversed with Yahiko, both seemingly safe inside the little food shop that Naruto had no idea if the kid's family owned or not, the real Naruto was busy setting up traps all over the seemingly empty village. The kid wasn't joking, he thought, as he bounced from roof to roof, looking for locations where the kidnapper could try to run from him so he could set a trap up, careful not to set up anything outright deadly, just in case any innocent civilian would walk into any of them. This place is a ghost town. What happened? Was it because of this demon guy, whoever he is? And not only that, where the hell is Pervy Sage? This village ain't that big, so where did that guy run off to? As he began to ponder the whereabouts of his master, Naruto landed on a light post, using his chakra to keep himself standing straight even if he had landed on its side. His view of the village now shifted into a complete 90-degree angle. But, when the pondering youth reopened his eyes, he was met with a sight he didn't think he'd see, a person he wasn't sure why he felt he was not ever going to have met otherwise. Blue eyes met red eyes. Shinobi in training met demon slayer in training. Tanjiro Kamado looked right up at the orange-clad boy standing sideways on the wooden pole, his grip on his hilt tightening, as the scent he had been chasing finally had a face, which was oddly human at that. Tanjiro noted all the weaponry the boy held, undoubtedly the mastermind behind all the traps set around the village's entrance. Naruto, on the other hand, looked on, confused, at the sight before him, a boy, close to his age, dressed as a samurai complete with an awesome-looking sword, carrying a creepy coffin on his back and glaring at him like he had just slapped his mother. Still, the description fit, so with the swordsman in his sights, Naruto figured he had just lucked out. Before we fight, Tanjiro broke the silence, and Naruto inwardly sulked, as the guy sounded manlier than him. How he hated sounding like a kid still. Tanjiro didn't seem fazed by the expressions on the blonde, ignoring them entirely. Tell me, he continued, are there more victims you're keeping from us? Victims? Naruto repeated, cocking his head to the side, arms still crossed. Buddy, I have no idea what you're talking about, but, let me ask you this, do you by any chance have a girl with you? About my age? Black hair with like reddish tips? Has a brother who's worried sick for her? You mean? Tanjiro spoke up, as his eyes widened, his mind quickly went to his sister. That description, it can't be, is he referring to Nezuko? Damn it, I knew Muzan knew of her, and he sent demons after us before, but even this far out, his reach is still so. Seems like I struck gold, huh? Naruto triumphantly announced, as he jumped away from the pole and landed right in front of Tanjiro, pointing his index finger directly at the other boy. Give her here you creep, or else I'ma flatten you. If you're talking about Nezuko, you'll have to walk over my dead body to get her. Tanjiro growled, his stance shifting, something which Naruto quickly noticed. Even if he couldn't quite recognize the stance, still, he could very well tell it was dangerous. I don't know her name, but you are giving her back to where she belongs. Naruto declared, pounding his fist onto his open palm. Before he took a fighting stance as well, I already promised someone I'll take her back, and I never go back on my word. Belie. The overused catchphrase was cut short the moment Naruto's head left his body, as Tanjiro's blade had sliced it cleanly off, leaving only the droplets of water to wash away the blood from the fallen. Breath of water, first style, Tanjiro softly spoke up, as he landed a few feet from the defeated opponent. Water surface slice, he continued, his tone somber. I'm sorry, I never even got your name. It's not your fault, Muzan made you into that, and I hope you'll find peace, it's all I can offer to. The hell did you do that for? Tanjiro could only react in utter shock as the wail from his downed opponent blasted right into his ears, and while his hearing was not to the level of, say, Zenitsu, it gave off quite the impression. Who just goes and chops someone's head off like that? Naruto barked out, now standing on top of one of the nearby roofs he had previously been bouncing off of. Now I get the demon part. You're like a baby Zabuza, how'd you? Tanjiro asked, bewildered, as he turned to where the body had fallen. There was no longer a body there, wood? From the light post. But I could have sworn I hit him. No more Mr. Nice Guy then, get ready you demon wannabe. Naruto declared, and before Tanjiro could properly process what was happening, he shouted out, ninja arts. Multi-shadow clone jutsu. A hand sign later, and one became 50. Tanjiro could only look in awe as the village turned into a battlefield, with roofs and even the streets filled with the same orange-clad individual, multiplied by the dozens, and it was no trick. Tanjiro noted, as they each moved individually, as if they were a different person, but the scent was the same, like a human's, but darker, as if tainted by something. Tanjiro was sure he knew by now just what it was. This must be his blood demon technique. I got careless, just because his eyes weren't marked. I can't afford these rookie mistakes, get it together. He wants Nezuko, and he won't get her. With a battle cry, the Narutos launched themselves at Tanjiro, all aiming to unarm him and restrain him, but Tanjiro was ready. He shifted his stance, and relaxed his breathing into the proper rhythm he needed, just as he had been taught during that latest grueling training, and he moved. He sliced the first two clones then had approached him from the air, both with the same swing, instead of the blood he had grown to expect. Tanjiro was met by two clouds of smoke that emitted as soon as he hit their bodies. Surprising the slayer, he dodged a few strikes from the clones coming to him from the street, and met their kunai knives with his own blade, shattering them all upon contact. Such blades, even if high quality, paled in comparison to the enhanced swords the demon slayers wield. Naruto quickly noticed this. Okay, change of plans. Naruto announced as he, the original still standing atop one of the roofs, quickly signaled to his remaining clones. In that very instant, they all jumped away from Tanjiro. As the slayer quickly turned his attention to the real Naruto, realizing that the one who had spoken must be the actual body he needed to behead, as such, he took aim towards him. But Naruto acted quicker. Eat this. Ninja art, Shuriken Shadow Clone Jutsu. And Tanjiro's eyes went completely wide as each remaining clone threw those ninja throwing stars at him, which then multiplied even more, almost covering his entire field of view. He barely had time to react. Sixth style, Twisting Whirlpool. In another flash of what seemed to be water, Tanjiro swung his blade around, creating a massive twister which broke every single shuriken thrown at him by the sheer force alone, even if they had not connected directly with his blade. This guy, Naruto snarled, his eyes narrowed in surprise. He knows some sick water jutsu. Seventh style. Tanjiro roared, and within a moment's notice, he had stabbed a shocked Naruto through the gut, piercing raindrop. Then Naruto vanished again, another substitution jutsu, but Tanjiro had expected it. Locking onto his scent, Tanjiro twisted his blade, and moved again, same technique, but at an angle, curve. And as still mid-in substituting Naruto had to guard against the incoming stab with his kunai. which shattered upon contact with Tanjiro's blade but were at least able to redirect the trajectory of the attack so that he would not get stabbed, taking advantage of how he was not run clean through. Naruto quickly grabbed hold on Tanjiro's arm and locked his body against it, rendering the blade no longer an active threat. Can't use those fancy jutsus without your little sword, eh? Naruto mocked, smirking at Tanjiro. No idea what a jutsu is supposed to be, Tanjiro replied, shifting his head as far back as he could, but I'm far from helpless without my blade. Then Tanjiro headbutted Naruto, causing the hyperactive shinobi to learn, for the first time in his young life, that there was indeed someone more hard-headed than he was. The hit had been absorbed mostly by his forehead protector, and boy was Naruto ever glad he was wearing it, because even with it, he could have sworn he had heard the metal crack when that boy had smashed his wide forehead against it, like, his forehead was almost as big as Sakura's. Not that he'd ever tell her that. Darn it. Naruto squealed in pain and in shock. What's your head made out of? Guess it yourself. Tanjiro shot back, as he pulled his head back for another hit, which instinctively caused Naruto to release his hold on him and jump back, just the thing Tanjiro wanted. The Slayer smiled, but so did the shinobi, and in a moment Tanjiro understood why. With a loud Naruto call, Tanjiro was sent flying into the air by 3 well-placed kicks from behind, by clones he had not noticed sneaking up behind him. For someone so loud, he could be very sneaky when he wanted to, Tanjiro noted, but he had bigger problems at hand. Another Naruto, the real one, was plunging down at him, kick first, to send him rocketing right back down. Uzumaki Ba. Water wheel. Tanjiro spun in place, stopping the would-be attack and cutting the attacker. For the first time in their fight, one of them had drawn blood, and as a wounded Naruto fell down onto the dirt road, the rest of his clones vanished in multiple clouds of smoke. Naruto's concentration had been broken, and as such his jutsu had been dispelled, which was just the miracle Tanjiro had been hoping for. Tanjiro landed close by, sword still in hand, with his other moving to the box that Nezuko slept in hopes he hadn't bothered her with so much reckless movement. Tanjiro then turned to Naruto. I'll make this painless if you just tell me if you have other humans here, Tanjiro told him, as the blonde clenched the open wound on his leg. Had he been even a little slower at reacting, the Slayer would have cut his entire leg off. Please answer me. Also, why do you want Nezuko? Was it Muzan who ordered it? I didn't train all this time, just to lose to some child kidnapper like you. Naruto growled, and Tanjiro felt a chill at the sound of his voice. It clearly did not sound fully human anymore, but like a true beast, he spoke with some sort of demonic echo, not unlike those he had beheaded before he could even react, though. The boy's facial features began to change, his form becoming more animalistic, not that unlike a pissed-off Nezuko. Tanjiro couldn't help but be outright shocked. But, it was all the more reason for him to act. He was careless once, he wasn't making that mistake again. Third form, flowing da. But there were simply no words to describe Tanjiro's face when Naruto just caught his Nichiren sword with his open palm, right by the bladed end, and forced his technique to come to a sudden halt. Naruto's eyes morphed, taking a more animalistic form and tint, as the chakra from the 9 tails sealed within him leaked more and more into his body, not enough for him to gain a tail, nor a cloak, but enough for him to gain a massive surge in power. His whiskers that adorned his cheeks got longer and thicker, and his nails became outright claws, as the spike in his chakra sent a chill up and down Tanjiro's very being. I'll end this in an instant. Naruto inwardly roared. How many blood demon arts does this guy have? Tanjiro thought, clenching his teeth and trying to move, but he could not get his sword free. Hell, he couldn't even budge it at all. This. Naruto then smashed his fist right into Tanjiro's forehead, and for the first time in the boy's life, he felt a massive surge of pain radiate from his entire head and a gush of blood erupt from his ever-so-hard head of his. Naruto had hit him with just that much raw power he couldn't even react properly. No! Tanjiro cried out, using his sleeve to clean out the blood from his eyes, obstructing his view, before he tried a different stance. Foe. He couldn't even call out an attack in time. Naruto outright vanished from his line of sight, before appearing right before him, smashing his fist against Tanjiro's stomach, moving faster than he could react in the blink of an eye, and knocking the wind out of the Slayer before sending him flying away from the battlefield. Tanjiro crashed against an abandoned house, breaking through its wall, flying further, right out the outer wall and landing on the other side, his lips bleeding from the impact. So fast. I could barely. And without a moment to catch his breath or his thoughts, Naruto appeared in front of him again, charging so quickly that Tanjiro could only guard himself with the blade. As Naruto slashed at him with his claws, again, and again, Tanjiro could only step back and block each strike with his sword, being given no time to properly counter with a breath technique, lest he give Naruto an opening to behead him in turn. I can't cut him like this. Tanjiro thought, his strength, it multiplied by so much. Why can't I break that sword? A furious Naruto asked himself, it's so damn strong. I shouldn't go beyond this, I still can't control the tail forms properly, so I have to beat him like this. Damn it, but the chakra tail would help, like, a whole lot. Then Naruto's chakra began to focus itself. Tanjiro could only gawk as a spiraling sphere of pure energy began to take form in the blonde's open palm. Naruto's now red eyes glared, as the fox boy screamed out, Rasengan. Tanjiro could barely block the jutsu with his blade, but he couldn't stop the momentum, as Naruto pushed him through the area, crashing against several more wooden houses and breaking them all into pieces. Naruto aimed to crack that damn sword in two right then and there, but just moments before he could, he got pushed back. Just like his clash against the Chidori, both Naruto and Tanjiro were flung back on opposite directions, both crashing onto more wooden structures on a now abandoned and destroyed part of the little, empty village. The ninja stood up, eyes narrowed, wondering just how had his signature technique been countered. Then he saw the Slayer, and his blade had changed. The Slayer emerged, getting back onto his feet, his body battered and bruised, but still in the fight. His uniform was somewhat torn but the resistant material mostly held up. Tanjiro had to use the hilt of his sword to press against his dominant shoulder, just to push it back into its socket with a loud pop. It hurt like hell, but this demon he was fighting was strong. Too strong, he couldn't match him physically for much longer, which was why he was lucky he was able to call this technique forth. Dance of the Fire God, an aghast Tanjiro voiced, eyes still sharp. Naruto narrowed his eyes, his opponent's sword seemed to be glowing, as if it had been lit on fire. The swordsman turned towards the ninja, glare ever present. A beastly Naruto just looked on, realizing that he needed to end this now, otherwise there wouldn't be a town left to save. You look strong enough to take it at full force, Naruto warned with a growl, before he motioned to a hand sign he had used before. In a poof of smoke, a second Naruto appeared, just as feral as the first, and both blondes quickly joined hands as they began to form the previous technique once more, Rasengan. Tanjiro looked on, burning blade at the ready. It was the same technique he had sort of blocked previously, the very one that had dislocated his shoulder and almost broken his back against the many structures he was pushed through, but its spin looked a lot faster, a lot stronger, a lot more even. He can control it better with two bodies. Is that what that is? This isn't good. Naruto then launched himself, literally, as his clone helped impulse him towards Tanjiro. Rasengan aimed right at the Slayer. Tanjiro braced himself, defensive stance at the ready. He knew he couldn't hope to guard against that technique again, but maybe, just maybe, if he could at least avert it, he could lessen the damage and maybe get a shot at the demon's neck. It was risky. One wrong move, and he'd be dead before he hit the floor, but he had no other alternative. How can there be such a powerful demon who is not a moon? Tanjiro thought, as he braced himself for the worse. At least, he swore, Nezuko would be alright, she would not be taken. Even if he had to die for it, he hoped that his friends would carry on what he started and save her, somehow. But before either fighter clashed their attacks against one another, Naruto came to a sudden halt. Well, more than that, his eyes widened as soon as something came right in his line of sight, or rather, someone. The ninja had no choice but to slam his attack against the ground to avoid hurting whoever had gotten in the way, creating a massive crater and sending dirt and rocks flying everywhere. He stood there, the Rasengan dissipating from his palm, as most of his animalistic traits slowly reverted, as his chakra went down to its more common level. Tanjiro stared, still frozen in his stance, before his eyes slowly caught wind of what had happened. The demon had missed? No, it didn't make sense. He was skilled. If he could hit Tanjiro while the latter was in motion, a still target should not be a problem for the fox demon. But, then he saw it. He saw her, the reason why the two had not just outright killed each other just moments prior. Nezuko? Tanjiro voiced, noticing how his little sister had stepped in between the two opponents, arms stretched out, having braced herself for the impact so her brother would be spared. Tanjiro couldn't help but clench his fists in anger at himself. Don't ever do that. He screamed at her, but it was clearly just concern talking. You could have gotten hurt, or worse. It's not your job to protect me. I'm the older brother, I should. Then he paused. The demon had given pause too. Was it because he had been ordered by Muzan not to hurt Nezuko? He wouldn't put it past him, since he had been interested in her from the start, but, regardless of the reason, he couldn't let this chance pass up. He needed that demon dead now, because he wasn't going to win otherwise. So, in a flash, Tanjiro moved. He visualized the string, connecting his blade to the demon's neck. It felt dirty, to fight this way, but to save his last family member from the fate the others suffered, he'd be as ruthless as the demons themselves. Naruto had to momentarily regain control of his sense, as was usual with him whenever he reverted back from using the tailed beast's chakra, but then he felt his entire body grow cold, and glancing up, he could tell why. The Slayer was inches from him, blade once again aimed at his throat. Oh crap. Naruto inwardly cursed, as he tried to refocus his chakra once more to substitute, but chakra control was still a very poor subject for him, so chances were he wouldn't be able to pull it off in the fraction of the second he needed to. But, it was a matter of life or death, so he'd damn well try. Or at least that's what he thought, because the blade never reached him. Naruto and Tanjiro both looked on, both equally shocked, as Tanjiro's blade was halted by the hilt by Nezuko's foot, the young girl visibly struggling a bit to hold back her brother's attack. Tanjiro immediately jumped back, pulling his sword as far from Nezuko as he could. Nezuko! Tanjiro shouted out, now almost out of air. Today had been too much, too quickly. Are you insane? I could have hurt you. What are you doing? Nezuko said. She shook her head as she spoke, and Tanjiro seemed to contemplate her words for a moment, his look still one of confusion. But, admittedly, not as confused as Naruto. The young shinobi stared, his left eye slightly twitching for a moment, at the scene before him. One moment, he was going to take this samurai kidnapper villain out, the next the samurai was going to behead him, and now they were both staring at a girl, bamboo-eating girl with some very firm legs apparently. Are we still fighting, or? Naruto began, utterly baffled, but the young girl quickly turned to him, her bright pink eyes, which kinda reminded him of Sakura's hair, but with a far warmer gaze, stared at him for a moment before she motioned to move her hand. Naruto flinched, wondering if he had to fight her next, but no hit ever came. Instead, Nezuko then placed her open palm onto his face, slowly, pink eyes meeting blue ones, and after a moment, she seemed to smile, somehow, even with the bamboo still stuck onto her face. As she caressed the bewildered blonde's face with such tenderness, Naruto couldn't help but blush and shriek at the same time. Tanjiro's jaw dropped, and he had so many questions, but he knew that Nezuko's stance was clear, and what it really meant. After all, she would always protect humans. Tired face. I beg for your forgiveness on my rash actions. Tanjiro apologized to the still shell-shocked ninja as the young slayer bowed before him, head as low as he could position it. A complete and total shift of how he had been about to behead him just moments earlier. A ninja must always see through deception. Naruto remembered Kakashi continuously warning Team 7, but he had never had an opponent sound so utterly sincere at apologizing to him before, and as Tanjiro continued to bow before the bewildered boy, the girl in the box was now busy flat on the ground skipping a stone from one leg to another, like a bored child waiting for her parents to stop talking to a friend and take her home. What the heck is wrong with you people? Naruto screamed at the sibling duo. I'm apologizing for fighting against you. Tanjiro replied, likewise screaming just as loud as Naruto, I mistook you for a demon. And to be fair, you seemed like you wanted to kidnap Nezuko, but I don't think that's it at all. Nezuko doesn't make mistakes regarding this. If she's protective of you, then that means you are not my enemy. How does someone mistake another guy for a demon? How many people have you murdered, you damn psycho? Naruto countered, still irritated at the fact, 1, he had almost lost his head twice in one night, and 2, that he didn't even sense the girl's presence at all. Some ninja he was. Where had she been hiding anyways? Did he summon her, or did she summon herself or something? He never saw her until he was moments from accidentally striking her. "Oh, that," Tanjiro softly replied, his eyes shifting to the side, avoiding the mad blonde's glare. "I am a slayer after all, but I assure you, I've never made this mistake before." Tanjiro seemed sure about his statement, but Naruto wasn't convinced. Besides, once Nezuko realized you weren't a demon, she quickly defended you, and that what counts, isn't that right, Nezuko? The playful girl stopped flicking the stone, turning her head to face her brother, then turning it further to face Naruto, whose complexion turned completely pale when he saw that she was effectively turning her head in an almost 180-degree angle. She didn't say anything, though. She just blinked and turned back to playing. "See," Tanjiro added, "she says she's also sorry." "Sorry?" Naruto blurted out, somehow having gotten about 20 feet away from the siblings in the time it took Tanjiro to address Nezuko and then him. "You wanted to kill me because I'm some kind of demon, yet your girlfriend looks like some kind of creepy, deformed puppet." "Creepy, deformed, puppet? Take that back," Tanjiro warned, softly, as the shadow of the night covered his eyes from view. "Hey, no offense man, you like what you like, but it just makes you a bit of a jerk to attack me when she fits that description a lot more, you know." Naruto alleviated the situation, as he moved his hands in front of him defensively. He had seen some pretty creepy people in the past, like Gaara of the Sand or Orochimaru, and that girl gave off a vibe very similar to them. "I'll have you know that Nezuko was the pride of our village." The elder brother defended his pride, pointing at her as if he were presenting a work of art. "Every single male of our generation would have been willing to give up their left arm if it meant a chance to date, and if they were lucky, marry this beauty. The prettiest girl in the entire world, Nezuko Kamado." Said prettiest girl in the world seemed to be drooling while looking at a chirping cricket. "Must be a very small village," Naruto mused, as he was now wishing he had taken his master's advice and just gotten some rest. "Sure, whatever you say, more power to ya," Naruto replied, as he shifted his attention from the weird-as-hell girl to the clearly bothered swordsman. "So your girlfriend there is not Yahiko's sister then?" "She's my sister," Tanjiro protectively declared, as he pointed to himself with his thumb. "Our only brothers are Takeo, Shigeru, and Rokuta, and I don't believe you would have met them." "Ah, so she's probably not the girl I'm trying to save, bummer," a disappointed Naruto voiced, his head now hanging low. This was turning out to be such a mess of a night that he didn't even know how to correct anything. "Speaking of, once I lost my clones I probably left Yahiko alone, poor kid, must be worried sick. I better get moving." "Save?" Tanjiro repeated, as his brow tensed as he tried to think rationally, trying his best to ignore the fact that this blonde loudmouth had not apologized for insulting his precious Nezuko. He decided he should get to work. "Can I ask you something?" "Just who are you?" "If you're not a demon, I don't imagine you to be a demon slayer." "Demon slayer, what's that?" Tanjiro felt a bit surprised at how earnestly confused the other boy was. From the scent he gave off, he wasn't lying. He had no idea who he was or what he did. A demon slayer is those who are trained in the art of the breath techniques, members of the demon slayer corps who hunt down any and all demons that prey on humans. "My name's Tanjiro Kamado, ranked as a Mizunoto, and together with Nezuko, we are assigned to different missions where demons are believed to be pestering." "So," Naruto said, "you are like samurai who kill demons?" "In a way, I guess." "Cool," Naruto exclaimed, as he jumped back to be within arm's reach of Tanjiro, who instinctively took a step back due to the suddenness. "And I'm Naruto Uzumaki, I'm a shinobi from the Hidden Leaf Village, ranked as a genin because some bastard attacked us during our last Chunin exams, which I was this close to passing by the way," Naruto told Tanjiro as he left very little space between his thumb and index finger, as a show of just how close he was to be given a promotion. "Not that it matters, as you are looking at the next Hokage. A ninja legend, so if you'd like me to autograph your sword or her bamboo, just let me know." "No thanks," said Tanjiro. Nezuko said nothing. "Your loss," a cheeky Naruto replied. "Right," Tanjiro tried his best to be as polite as possible, which was becoming very hard at the moment, but he still felt uneasy about the whole situation, and there were many questions he wanted to ask. Most of all, what was a ninja of all things doing here? But one question took precedence. "If I may ask you, Naruto, right?" "Yep," the ninja replied, now all of a sudden all jolly and happy, much to Tanjiro's confusion. "Why are you looking for someone's sister here?" "Ah, that." Naruto said, as he remembered he should really be shifting his focus back to that. I just ran into a little kid who almost blew my head off, which if I had a Rio for every time that has happened tonight, I'd have 3, not a lot, but a bit unnerving it happened 3 times, Naruto said with a cheeky grin, but that aside, he told me some kidnapper had taken his elder sister, he told me she was about my age, and had black hair with red tips, and not much else. I kinda forgot to ask for more details, so I have no idea what her name even is, a sheepish Naruto added, rubbing the back of his head in embarrassment. But why here? Tanjiro asked, trying to make sense of it all. I mean, this place was evacuated weeks ago, due to the demon sightings. Why would you think to look here? Ah, that explains why this place is so empty. Naruto said, and where else would I look? The kid is right here, and his sister got taken away recently. Wait, that can't be true, Tanjiro muttered, his eyes widening. Hey! I'm not lying. No, you're not, Tanjiro responded, I can tell that much, but this would help explain why your scent was so confusing to me. You smelled like a demon, yet you also smell human. Smell? Naruto's thought said, this guy another Kiba, is he? But there's no way some kid could survive in this village by himself with a demon lurking about, Tanjiro noted, as his brow furrowed and he came up with the most likely scenario before them. It knew we were coming, and it lured you to attack me, probably hoping we'd kill each other or weaken ourselves sufficiently. That would explain your scent. It's not yours, it's his. Wait, what are you dash? That kid you met, that was no kid, Tanjiro replied, that was the demon. Tired face. Wait! Naruto shouted out, as he ran through the remaining rooftops on his way to where Yahiko was, with Tanjiro running by his side, their speed roughly equal to one another. You're not just going to behead some little kid, are you? It's not a kid, it's a demon, Tanjiro replied, but don't worry, I'll make sure this time, I won't just blindly attack, but, you'll see, you don't sound that convinced at the existence of demons. I've had close encounters with a few before, Naruto replied, but I'm not entirely sure if my idea of a demon is the same as yours. Because if that kid has something inside of him that doesn't make him the thing. That's not how these demons work, Tanjiro responded, demons used to be human, and they gave up their humanity, they eat humans to get stronger, and all they cause is pain and tragedy, but, I know that not all of them are like that. I can think of 3 that don't follow Musen's example. Musen? Naruto pondered, but he decided that now was not perhaps the best time to ask. So if this Yahiko is like that, then I'll help him, but given how it seems he sent you on a collision course with me, I highly doubt it, Tanjiro added, hoping against reason that this kid would indeed turn out to be that 4th good demon instead of just another monster he would have to slay. So you're saying there are good demons out there? Naruto asked, his fox-like expression now back in full effect. Are they what then, vegetarians? Ask for yourself, Tanjiro replied, smirking, you have her right next to you. Naruto blinked for a moment, before he realized that Nezuko was running through the rooftops right next to him, her running motion perfectly mimicking his. As if they were playing a game of ninja like he did back when he was a kid, those very few times he could sneak into the park and meet up with the likes of Shikamaru, Chuji and Kiba. Nezuko looked to the side at Naruto, her wide pink eyes scanning his features for something he didn't understand. Then, she seemed to smirk, again, with that bamboo thing still stuck to her face. And she just blasted off, picking up speed and running past him. Hey! Naruto exclaimed, as he got pissed off for no reason whatsoever and also picked up speed, hell-bent on not losing to her. Tanjiro tried to tell the two to stop goofing off, but his words were left to the winds as Naruto ran after Nezuko in the attempt to prove he was faster, but whenever he got close to her, she would pick up even more speed, and then he'd have to do the same. So he put everything into it, focusing his chakra to his feet and ran as fast as his legs would carry him, and just as the food shop came into view, just barely, he managed to run past her, and land at their destination a mere second before her. The blonde clenched his fist and pumped it onto the air, roaring in celebration in his victory over the weird demon of a girl. Oh yeah. You just can't match the speed of the next Hokage, now can ya? The Orange Flash, that's what they'll call me. Kinda sounds like a soda, but who cares? Totally showed ya, didn't I? And she was happily clapping at him, with the fondest of smiles in her face. Okay, not much of a competitive spirit in ya, huh? An utterly deflated Naruto replied, bragging rights didn't work when your opponent looked happier at your victory than you did, Nezuko, right? He asked, and she nodded, so she could at least understand other people outside of her brother. Naruto noted, wait, Tanjiro said that you were. Before he could finish, Naruto felt a sudden chill run up his spine, and at that very moment, Nezuko had vanished from his sight, and when his eyes caught up to her, she was right next to him. Throwing what seemed to be one hell of a kick aimed right behind him, Naruto instinctively drew out a kunai and turned to defend himself, but then he saw her true target. It was a man. No, that wasn't quite right, it was in the general shape of a man, but it was deformed, far larger than humanly possible, one arm jacked to the extreme, the other lanky and almost snake-like. No eyes, no nose, no ears, just teeth, too many teeth, or rather, fangs. It was drooling, just like she would, as it began to try and stand back up. Nezuko's kick, Naruto noted, had broken the things. Well, everything, but in seconds it healed, it got back up like nothing had happened, and Naruto could only stare in disbelief at the sight of a healing ability that completely eclipsed his own, at a sight that could not be described as anything else but, as a true demon. And Nezuko was growling, sounding less like the playful girl he had just been racing and more like a muzzled beast about to be unleashed. Her fingers became claws much like his own could, and her eyes morphed not unlike his own as well. You are so beautiful, a dark voice echoed through the area, and both Naruto and Nezuko shifted their attention all around, hearing the voice but not being able to pinpoint the source. It wasn't coming from the big guy Nezuko had just kicked, as he was still standing there, as if nothing was going on, just staring with no eyes. Who's there? Naruto demanded. And you proved useless, shinobi, the voice said, and both Naruto and Nezuko managed to see its source as a young boy stepped out of the shadows, almost as if materializing out of them. I ask you to save my dear sister, and you cannot even manage that much. How utterly disappointing. Yahiko, Naruto growled, realizing that Tanjiro had been right all along. I'm going to teach you a lesson for making a mockery of me, and no amount of flattery will save you, buddy. So don't call me beautiful. The demonic Yahiko choked. That wasn't aimed at you, you know what, never mind. The demon disguised as a little boy said, as he turned towards the big demon. Tenshin, you have my permission to strike, Yahiko told the monster. As he turned his dark red eyes to Nezuko, the girl, I want her, restrain. A shuriken suddenly struck his left eye, much to the demon's annoyance. None of that. Naruto reprimanded, but his body went cold the moment Yahiko simply pulled the shuriken out of his eye's socket, with his eye still stuck to it, with the expression one would have if someone had dirted one's glasses. Yahiko glared at Naruto. You, dude, gross, put it back, Naruto said with a shiver. Nezuko just looked on, before her eyes widened briefly and she turned towards the side, her expression brightening. There you are, Slayer, Yahiko growled, as his attention was shifted towards Tanjiro, who stood on the opposite roof to the group, sword drawn and his attention fixed on Yahiko. The one responsible for my dilemma, how I've planned for this. Guess that answers that, Tanjiro muttered, as he took a deep breath and readied himself. Nezuko, keep your guard up and be careful. Naruto, he turned towards the ninja, don't waste your time trying to hurt him, he can't be killed by normal means, demons only fall to sunlight, which is still a few hours away, or, the Slayer spoke, as he raised his blade, allowing the moonlight to reflect itself across the holy metal, by cutting their heads off by a Nichiren blade. That blade will never reach me, Yahiko mocked, as the stage was set for a battle between the demons, a slayer and a shinobi. All the while another individual watched from afar, his attention fixed solely on the demon slayer that had earned his scorn. Sharp demonic eyes waited for their opportunity to strike, all while proudly showcasing the mark befit of the Upper Moon 3. That blade will never reach me, the boy turned demon told Tanjiro, with a mocking tone and devilish smile, his eyes nevertheless fully focused on the supposedly holy sword that the young demon slayer had unsheathed. For all his bravado in the face of the adversity, Naruto noted, the young-looking demon was completely on guard against Tanjiro, paying the equally competent Nezuko and himself no mind. This irked the shinobi greatly, as not only had he been strung along like a fool, the nerve, but he was now being ignored in favor of that hard-headed samurai, so his blade was longer. Big deal. That said, both he and the increasingly animalistic Nezuko were not being completely ignored. Oh no, The very big guy that had gotten up from one of Nezuko's earth-shattering kicks like he had just tripped on a banana peel had his sights, well, his eyeless sights, well, his teeth were aimed their way, and he was drooling, a lot. Naruto took out his kunai, prepared to deal with the big guy. Yahiko had called him Tenshin, right? But before Naruto even got the chance to think up an opening move, the unsymmetrically shaped demon charged, but unlike what Naruto had assumed, not at him. Tanjiro, without missing a beat, had charged at the demon that referred to itself as Yahiko, his aim centered squarely against the beast's short neck. I see the THRE what? A smirking Yahiko did nothing, as the gigantic Tenshin had bypassed Naruto and Nezuko entirely and had gotten between the demon and the slayer, blocking Tanjiro's sword strike with his gigantic arm, and taking aim at him with the other, lankier one. Demons don't usually cooperate unless ordered to by Muzan, Tanjiro thought, as he tried to readjust himself, despite the difficulty of getting caught off guard in midair. Matters were made worse when he noticed that his blade had gotten stuck midway into the demon's large arm, making it even harder to dodge. No choice, better brace myself, luckily his other arm is not as. Then Tenshin's arm shifted, the lanky one becoming gigantic and vice versa. It did allow Tanjiro to free his blade, but, this might hurt. A massive roar erupted from the toothed opponent, as his punch not only knocked the demon slayer away, but erupted the wooden housing both of them had been hovering above of. Yahiko had also bounced away from the area, and onto the street down below, his eyes never leaving the holy blade. Another roar erupted at that moment, far more muffled but no less frightening, as the clearly pissed off Nezuko launched herself blindly at the larger demon who had just swatted her elder brother away like a fly, digging her sharp claw-like nails into the beast, trying her best to rip the thing apart with just her bare hands, sword or kunai be damned. Unlike her initial kick to the thing, it seemed that Tenshin was now a little bit more battle-ready, as he began to shift its muscle mass to whatever zone Nezuko was aiming at, protecting its body from much harm, and when it managed to peel her off, increasing the size of one of his legs, before it slammed down and pulled all of its weight into the petite girl. The sound of her pained cry mixed with the sound of bones crunching as he did was enough to send a still somewhat dumbfounded Naruto directly to her defense. Naruto moved fast, throwing several shuriken directly into the creature's morphed leg, which did little more than stick there like Christmas ornaments on a tree. Yahiko was midway into a scoff at the poor display from the misplaced shinobi in that fight, but both he and Tenshin were caught off guard when the throwing stars seemingly ignited. The explosion was not massive, but certainly enough to cause the larger demon to instinctively move back, away from the crushed demon girl, and right into Naruto's next move. Let's try this. Naruto shouted out as he stabbed the demon right in the center of the throat, causing the thing to cough out some blood from its fang-infested jaws. Tenshin moved to try and catch the blonde, this time turning both his hands lanky, stretching them out against him, but Naruto just smirked, big but dumb, just how I like it. Falling for the same stuff twice is outright embarrassing. Yahiko finally saw through the attack, his eyes widening just ever so slightly. The knife has a paper on it, just like the kunai ignited, propelling itself right through Tenshin's throat, and just like Naruto had planned it, decapitating the demon in the process. Its burning head fell to the dirt, rolling a bit before stopping several feet from its body, which was in the process of landing on the ground with a massive thud, likewise unmoving. And that's, Naruto began, landing a few feet from Yahiko, as the demon actually turned and faced him properly, his expressions showing little more than annoyance. How it's done, ninja style. Who needs some fancy sword when you got all these goodies? Ain't that right, you demonic twerp? So, what'll be, you surrender or you want to join your body over there for barbecue? Do you ever shut up? Yahiko muttered, rubbing his temple softly, his eyes reddening with each word that left Naruto's mouth. I'm aware how insignificant an opponent you are, I really am. But damn it, is it hard to ignore you. What was that? Naruto barked at the demonic kid, pulling the sleeve of his jacket back and ready to knock the living daylight out of him. But he suddenly felt a very cold gust of wind hit every fiber of his being. Naruto! Behind you! He heard Tanjiro scream, before Tenshin's beheaded body enlarged both of his fists and outright crushed both him and the ground beneath him with a massive pounded strike. Yahiko, unfazed, merely turned his attention back to the recovered slayer. Nezuko mumbled to her brother, both siblings standing several feet from the two demons. Tanjiro crouched down next to his recovering sister, who had managed to pick herself back up. She sounded worried, he noted, and he couldn't blame her. "Easy Nezuko, if he's strong enough to fight me," Tanjiro assured her, as he glared at the two demons before them, "then he's not going to get taken out by such an attack. Are you so sure?" Yahiko began, but was interrupted by a rather obnoxious yell. "Are you kidding me?" An increasingly angrier Naruto shouted, emerging unharmed from behind Tanjiro and Nezuko, managing to surprise even them, as they had expected him to be alive, but not somehow right there with them. Tanjiro looked outright impressed, and Nezuko could be seen trying to smile from behind her bamboo muzzle. "That thing doesn't even have a head, and it totally took a swing at me. What do I need to do? Bring it down." "Heh, that's pretty awesome Naruto," Tanjiro proudly told the blonde, as he stood back up next to Naruto, "but, like I said, beheading them works, but only if it's with this type of sword," the Slayer said, shifting the stance of his sword just slightly to showcase it to the youth. "Otherwise, they'll just heal, for real." "Well, that sucks," a disappointedly-sounding Naruto whined, as he placed both his hands on the back of his head and closed his eyes, wanting nothing more to get back to facing opponents he could understand properly. Then again, unkillable guys made for excellent training partners, did they not? "Still, I'ma pay him back for trying to crush me. Good thing you had the perfect object for me to substitute with." "Perfect object?" Tanjiro asked, confused. "Yep." Naruto replied, smiling, "That weird box you were carrying. Pretty light if I do say so myself." "Weird box?" Tanjiro looked at the crater next to Tenshin. His eyes widened like dinner plates. There it was, the majestic carrier box that his master Sakonji Urokadaki had built specifically for Nezuko's use, absolutely destroyed. The handcrafted last gift from the man that had taught him how to wield a blade, made from the very rare mist cloud fur material perfect to carry Nezuko without having her affected by the sunlight, gone, broken into pieces in the floor where the ninja had been standing. Both demons glared at the trio. Tanjiro uncharacteristically glared at Naruto. "What? What do you mean what?" Tanjiro exclaimed as her grabbed Naruto by the collar of his jacket and pulled and pushed him so hard Naruto's vision got a bit blurry. "Do you have any idea how important that box was to us? Our master made it. And it's the only thing I have to keep Nezuko safe from the sunlight." "What? I'm sorry man, didn't know." Naruto cried back, "I'll buy you a new one, I swear." "How much Rio does it cost anyways?" "What the heck is Rio? What do you mean what?" Had Nezuko not tackled both arguing boys out of the way, they would have probably been too preoccupied to properly counter the massive attack made by a still headless Tenshin, who once again created a massive crater in the spot they had just been standing at. The three rolled across the dirt for a bit before stopping and getting back into fighting stances, their attention now focused on the demons once more. "Never mind, we'll work something out, just stay out of our way from now on Shinobi," Tanjiro said. "Oh yeah? Why don't you sit back and watch me do this right? And I'll show you I won't need no fancy sword, samurai." Naruto barked back. "I'm a slayer." "Same thing." Nezuko grabbed both boys by the ear, pulling them hard enough to cause the two to squirm and stop their arguing, as she offered them a muffled HMPHM MMMHPMH MPH MMP. To likely boost their morale, or something, she even lifted her fist into the air and stood before both boys triumphantly, as both Naruto and Tanjiro looked on. "Your sister has a few screw loose. Don't make me cut you," Tanjiro retorted, forcing himself to ignore the dimwit and focus on the fight at hand. Now without his box, he couldn't risk dragging out the fight any longer, as he needed to have Nezuko safe by sunrise. So, without another word, the Slayer launched himself at Tenshin, the familiar droplets of water emerging as he sliced and sliced at the demon, who instinctively turned the area that Tanjiro was aiming at bigger, so that the blade could not cut cleanly through, just like he had done with Nezuko. That again, huh? Following his earlier strategy, Tenshin took the opportunity before him and attempted to crush Tanjiro like he had done with Nezuko, but Tanjiro simply smirked and vanished from his line of sight. In his place, appeared Nezuko, who proceeded to kick Tenshin right on the abdomen, sending the demon flying as he had all his muscle mass on his hands. As he did, both siblings went on the chase, Tanjiro preparing his blade. He then turned towards his sister, hold him down, he told her. He doesn't have his head attached, so I'll aim for that instead. There has to be some neck still left there. His sister nodded, as she lunged at the still recovering brute. Tanjiro quickly reached the head, taking quick aim at what was left of the throat after Naruto's explosive tag had blown it off, but his blade was caught by it, or rather, by its teeth. Tenshin's head had flipped, the neck veins emerging from the injury and serving as spider-like legs as it took aim at Tanjiro. It was a surprising tactic, Tanjiro noted, forcing the young slayer to use his leg to kick the now active head away from his sword. Said head rolled a bit before it began to crawl away towards his main body, who was busy fighting off a relentless Nezuko. Tanjiro knew that he probably had the speed necessary to hit the head before it reached its destination, but he figured one whole opponent was easier to take down than two near-neckless ones. Nezuko seemed to notice his aim, as without needing a word, she jumped back and allowed Tenshin to become whole again, landing right next to her brother, her claws aimed much in the same way as his sword. Tenshin roared, the siblings answered in kind, and the three clashed with a thunderous boom. So, you wanna fight, or? Naruto asked, appearing right next to Yahiko, who was looking strictly at the battle before them. He gave Naruto no answer. Naruto felt his blood boil, he took out his kunai, and against such a small demon, he didn't need any explosive tags. One chakra-infused slash and Yahiko was beheaded. To Naruto's utter disappointment, Yahiko merely caught his falling head with his right hand, completely unfazed but now at least looking at the shinobi. Can you not see I have no business with you? You made it your business when you tried to shoot my face off. Naruto reprimanded, and he got ready for a fight, but it never came. Yahiko merely plucked his head back onto his body like he was putting on a discarded hat, and kept on focusing on Tanjiro and Nezuko's fight. Naruto had never felt so insulted in his life. Rasengan. Rasen what? Yahiko caught himself asking, before he felt a massive something strike him on the side, sending the unsuspecting demon flying across the battlefield, right between the clashing foes he had been watching, through an abandoned flower shop, almost hitting a rather large Venus flytrap on display, crashing right out of the shop, and landing against some rubble in a very violent fashion. Was that Naruto? Tanjiro asked, still in mid-air, shocked at just how fast he had seen Yahiko fly by. Nezuko noted, her eyes shifting from the battlefield towards the shinobi, who had now split into two in order to properly launch his trademark attack. The biggest reaction, however, came from Tenshin. It wasn't shock or anger, or anything resembling emotion, but rather, the thing fell onto his knees, his jaw opening to an insane degree as he let out a massive cry of pain, so strong that the sibling duo before it took a step back out of instinct alone. Wait. Tanjiro noted, was it hurt by? Yahiko, pushing away the rubble around him, tried to stand right back up, fully intent on ending the annoying ninja once and for all, before he felt his body fail him and land right back onto the ground. The demon clenched his side, a massive unknown pain affecting the still unhealed area. How? It growled, as a sense of pain not known to demons was traversing his very being. What did that freak do? Why does this hurt so damn much? I'll rip that ninja to pieces. Tenshin. Tanjiro pounced at the overgrown demon, taking aim at its wide neck, fourth style, striking tide. Tenshin caught the blade with its hand, losing several fingers in the process, but regrowing them regardless. It then began to morph again, but this time, its entire body went buff, growing a good 2 feet larger in the process, a rather impressive feat for a creature already way past 8 feet, and turning his bluish skin blood red. It then swung the sword that Tanjiro was holding onto around, tossing both it and Tanjiro to the side with impressive force, causing the Slayer to have to use one of his techniques, the water wheel, to try and stabilize himself and avoid being slammed across the pavement. The demon then sensed an approaching threat, and after his latest attack, he could no longer be ignored. Hey ugly, eat this. Naruto growled, pulling out a closed windmill shuriken out of his little bag of tricks, and tossing it at the demon with all his non-tailed beast-enhanced strength. Tenshin opened its maw and shattered the clone-turned shuriken into pieces, the smoke erupting from its throat once the beast had finished. Ack. Am I glad I threw the clone? Then Tenshin vanished, and before Naruto could react, it slammed the blonde against the ground, causing Naruto to spit out blood by how powerful a force he had been hit by, leaving him no room to use his substitution technique again. No sooner had Tanjiro landed on his feet, than had Tenshin slammed his feet right into his torso, his speed clearly increased with whatever transformation Yahiko had forced onto him, and held the Slayer in place. Then, Tanjiro's worst fears came to realize as he realized that Tenshin had Nezuko within his grasps, her neck broken by the beast, holding her by the tattered remains of her kimono. Her eyes were still wide, and Tanjiro couldn't tell if she was still conscious or not. How had he even hit her? Tanjiro never saw it. Then Tenshin's jaws opened completely, almost down to its chest, and Tanjiro realized its intentions. It was going to swallow Nezuko whole. No! Tanjiro screamed out, but the pressure from the demon prevented him from moving an inch. Nezuko! Wake up, Nezuko! You need to move. To run. Nezuko! Run! Tenshin moved to eat her, and to Tanjiro's horror, he swallowed her whole kimono, that is. To the demon's surprise, upon eating nothing but fabric, Nezuko had woken up and reduced her body as much as she could, slipping right out of her outer clothing, and dashing like mad away from the hungry demon, following her brother's instructions perfectly, as she would always. The small Nezuko, now covering herself with solely her oversized undergarments, dashed like crazy around the area, as Tenshin gave chase, just like she wanted it to. It meant that her brother could recuperate. Tanjiro began to stabilize his breathing, focusing on everything he learned from the teachings of Shinobu Kocho and the other girls there, in order to recuperate himself and end this once and for all. I'm sorry, Nezuko, it's my own fault, and I'm not usually like this. Our enemies are the demons. If I need to work together with Naruto to bring them down, I can't let my pride get in the way of that. I almost lost you, and now you are forced to run around for your life like that. I can't let this go on, he decided, then shouted, Naruto! I'll end this once and for all. Please, protect my little sister. A still battered Naruto could barely hear the boy, but he understood from the tone of his shout that he needed help, that she needed help, so he opened his eyes, and found himself floating in a very familiar water. I don't have the time now, you stupid fox, he told the caged monster, not bothering to even sit back up. He didn't have to, he could outright feel that dark gaze burrowing down on him, eager to be let out and continue in its path of destruction, a demon much like the ones he was currently facing, just a little nicer. Maybe, he did prefer having the Ninetales inside than any of these two, that was for sure, but not by much. Just what is that pathetic display of yours? The demon asked the boy, and Naruto just shrugged. So much pointless training, and once again, you are bloodied on the ground. Your allies winning the fights you never could. How many risked their lives for you to bring the Uchiha back, and yet, in the end, you failed. You know something, you smelly fox? Naruto said, this time sitting up because he hated feeling so damn wet. I'm way past feeling bad for myself. I know how hard they fought, Chuji, Niji, Shikamaru, Kiba and Bushy Brows. Heck, even Akamaru fought like a champ. So don't start with these dumb mind games with me. I'm not letting you out, and I will bring Sasuke back. Just you watch, and I'm going to get right back up, and protect that Slayer and his sister. Because that's well, you know the rest. Then he was back in reality, the shout from Tanjiro echoing in his ears. A proper team-up, was it? Fine by him. Multi-shadow clone jutsu. Yahiko and Tanjiro could only look in shock when Naruto multiplied himself again, but it wasn't just 50 clones. This time, the blonde shinobi numbered at the hundreds. He overcrowded the area completely, so much orange that almost no other color could be spotted. What even is he? A still aching Yahiko growled. When we fought earlier he turned into about 50 or so replicas, so I assumed that was his limit, Tanjiro noted, utterly amazed. But this could well be over 1,000. That's almost insulting really, to think you held back against me like that, but am I glad you're helping me out now. Not bad, Naruto. Just wait till you see what else I got up my sleeve. Naruto beamed, as he and his clones quickly got in the way of Tenshin and the still small Nezuko, with one of him grabbing the little girl and running away with her as many of the clones began to beat up on the enraged demon. His power was great, however, as it mowed down the clones by the dozen, creating massive clouds of smoke as he tore through the many Narutos, reaching the one holding Nezuko within seconds. But unfortunately for him, there were still many other clones to spare. He reached one, Said clone tossed Nezuko towards another clone, effectively playing a game of hot potato with the ever-angrier demon. As Yahiko looked on, glaring at the back of the many ninjas before him, then, his vision was obscured by a familiar foe appearing before him. The injured Tanjiro clenched his sword, glaring at the demonic Yahiko without much of a word. "And here you are, just like the others, looking down at us like it's your right to exterminate us," Yahiko told the Slayer, as Tanjiro merely shrugged. "You are the ones trying to eat people, so it kinda goes against saying that you should be stopped," Tanjiro replied, taking aim with his blade at the creature's neck, but, as he moved to strike, he felt his body freeze. "Did you really think I was defenseless?" Tanjiro couldn't even speak, as his entire body stopped responding, effectively paralyzed. "Oh, you've got to be. My blood demon art is one of a kind, you see," Yahiko explained, slowly getting up, his mouth beginning to water at the sight of a helpless Tanjiro. "I can control others to an extent, an ability great for capturing prey, but not one as powerful as to be able to please our master, so I made a plan, to capture several lower-ranking demons and merge them into one powerful beast, my creation. Little Tenshin over there, magnificent is he not?" As Yahiko motioned to the beast, the young would-be demon slayer struggled to try and move, but he simply could not. It's as if his entire body had been turned to stone. "I use my powers, and simply suggest an action for him to take, and he follows flawlessly," he heard Yahiko continue to babble on, "but, thanks to you, my plans were squashed. My great creation, a surefire candidate for our master's lower moon ranks, now no longer to take such a role because of you. But maybe, if I kill you, he'll reconsider, so, I'll allow you to talk, just so that I can hear you scream." Then the Slayer felt himself able to move his jaw. He proceeded to frown at the gloating demon. "And you say I never shut up." Then, in a poof of smoke, Tanjiro became another Naruto. "What the hell?" Yahiko cried out, as he took a step back, but then felt his entire body grow cold. A splash of water hit the floor, and the demon began to see his world flip upside down, his eyes widening at the realization of what had just occurred. "How? Took you long enough, Tanjiro?" An amused Naruto told him, grinning from ear to ear. "I was just impressed by your interpretation of me," Tanjiro replied, smiling right back. "Even if you really don't talk like me at all, I've known you for what, 30 minutes? Cut me some slack." "Yeah, I guess you have a point, but let's see if my theory is correct," Tanjiro spoke up, as he turned to the rushing clones currently playing keep Nezuko away from the scary guy. As soon as Yahiko was brought down, the demon itself proceeded to fall. No scream, no last attempt at an attack, it just fell. The Narutos and the little Nezuko all paused, blinking in surprise, until Tenshin began to decompose before their eyes. "Damn it!" Yahiko cried out, as his body began to decay as well. Tanjiro looked on, as the Naruto clone that had passed off as him felt his body shiver at the sight of a talking head currently in the process of breaking apart, of outright rotting in fast forwards. "He told me my Tenshin was strong enough to defeat you. To re-establish the lower moons you humiliated so. He didn't say you were this strong, nor that there were others outside the ranks of Demon Slayer with such power." "Who's he?" Tanjiro asked, then remembered something even more important. "Oh wait, right." Tanjiro quickly tossed the syringe into the blood pool from the demon, soaking up some so that he could send it to Miss Tamayo for testing. It was the only lead he had to be able to save Nezuko, so he couldn't let that opportunity pass. The carrier in the form of a little cat, called Shichamaru, Naruto later learned, quickly appeared, and much to Naruto's utter confusion, Tanjiro gave it the blood and it went on its merry way. Tanjiro then turned back to Yahiko, to get some more information out of the fallen demon, but realized too late that the demon was long gone, not a speck left. Tanjiro looked down, sheathing his blade, and taking a deep breath. "This means we won, right?" Naruto hopefully asked, and as Tanjiro nodded to him, he began to bounce up out of pure joy. "Yippee." The many Naruto clones all vanished at once, hundreds returning to simply one, with Tanjiro now realizing the one that had been helping him was simply another clone, while the real one was currently holding up Nezuko. "Hey, good work team." Naruto praised with a smile, "And here's your weird little sis, completely safe." And Naruto went completely quiet as his eyes went wide and his face turned crimson red. Nezuko had grown back into her usual size, no longer the almost toddler-like version he had been tossing between his clones, but now a proper young girl his own age. She was also wearing very little. Not that she seemed bothered in the slightest by her lack of proper clothing, she simply cocked her head to the side, nodded at her brother, then turned to him, nodding as well and patting Naruto on the head for a job well done. Before Tanjiro could reach the two and quickly cover Nezuko, as he was aiming to do the second he realized the situation at hand, Naruto softly placed the girl down, took off his own jacket, and proceeded to cover the girl with it. Nezuko just looked on, confused, as Naruto simply turned to the side and began to walk away, still completely embarrassed by the whole thing. Nezuko, puzzled, turned towards her approaching brother, who had no choice but to let it all go. Nothing to worry about, Nezuko, he told her, seems he is a gentleman despite, well, everything indicating otherwise. That aside, we really need to get you some new clothing. At this Nezuko looked down, at her current state, then back at her brother, then at Naruto's retreading form, then back down. Then she lightly blushed, still looking down, like hanging her head down in shame. Wait! Tanjiro exclaimed, realizing his sister was showing some very human emotion for what seemed like the longest time. You're actually embarrassed. That's great. She frowned at him. I mean, in the sense of how you're getting better, more human, I mean, Tanjiro clarified, this is great, you are getting flustered just like you did back at the village, so cute. Big brother proceeded to hug and lift his embarrassed younger sister is a display of affection that made her even more embarrassed, but with a warmth she would be dead before she would motion at him to stop. Then Naruto returned, a present at hand. There, fixed it, he announced, and both siblings could only look utterly exasperated. Is that supposed to be? Tanjiro asked. Nezuko asked. Your box. I fixed it. Naruto explained, as he pointed to the box he had brought to them. It was, in his defense, made with parts of the one that had gotten broken, but it had a bunch of gaps throughout. Kunai stuck to it to serve as nails, and the size was twice as small as it had been. Naruto stood there, presenting the box like if it were the greatest thing ever instead of the death machine it resembled. I don't think Nezuko could even shrink herself that much, Tanjiro noted. Nezuko agreed. And that would never protect her from the sunlight, at all, Tanjiro noted. Nezuko agreed. And those knives would cut her into ribbons each time she even tried to move, Tanjiro noted. HNMP. Nezuko agreed. Naruto felt himself shrink with every accusation and follow-up agreement. Hey! It's exactly like how it was when I used it. Naruto argued. Are you blind? It looks nothing like the sort. Tanjiro countered. Then blood filled the dirt road. Neither of them saw it coming. One moment they had been arguing about the box, the next, their bodies fell onto the pavement, blood gushing from the orifices in their faces. Their torsos having been cut wide open, organs beginning to spill out. Tanjiro fell first, his body already bruised and not being able to keep his breathing in check without his lungs. Naruto fell moments after, the demon fox chakra attempting to save him, but even with its regeneration, it could not fix wounds to that degree. Nezuko just stood there. One moment the happiest she could remember herself being in a long time, the next, covered in the blood of her brother and their new friend, her eyes wide and her lips craving the taste of the blood rushing down their bodies currently inches from her covered lips. She bit down hard, her vision blurry, and nothing had happened. Nezuko looked at the two, still standing, still arguing, no more bloody than they had been moments prior. The girl looked on, her body in cold sweat all of a sudden, as she couldn't realize the meaning behind what she had just seen, the bloodlust she had felt. Had that been her? Or? She quickly moved to Tanjiro, grasping onto her brother's arm, pressing her body against him. Tanjiro quickly stopped his argument with Naruto. Nezuko? Are you okay? Is something wrong? He asked, and was shocked at seeing her like this. She looked outright frightened. Nezuko tried to inform him what she had seen, to say something, but damn her condition, why couldn't she talk? Why couldn't she actually say something to her brother for once? She begged anyone, any god or deity, to allow her speech for even a second, to just tell him something, but all she managed was to hold on to him, as sleep overtook her, and she drifted into an undesired slumber thanks to all the energy she had used up. Tanjiro quickly held on to her, keeping her from falling as he pressed her light frame against his. Naruto looked on, concerned with the girl before him. is she injured? She looked like she could heal like me, didn't she? Maybe it has a limit like I do. But damn, her eyes, she looked so sad there for a moment, wonder why. Naruto, Tanjiro spoke up, his tone softer as to not disturb the sleeping Nezuko. I'm grateful for the assistance, you helped keep Nezuko safe, and for that, I will forever owe you a debt I can never hope to repay. She means the world to me, if you can't already tell, but, I need to be going, Nezuko needs rest. And I must find a suitable way to transport her before sunrise. Don't worry about the box, I'll manage. You better report back to whoever your higher-ups are, as do I. Huh. Hey, wait. Naruto shouted out, then clenched his mouth when he remembered that Nezuko was sleeping. So, hey, Tanjiro, Naruto whispered, I'm not about to just let you tend to her by yourself. I ruined your thing, so let me help. I may, occasionally, do some dumb stuff, but I'm good at fixing stuff too, just tell me what you need. That's. Also, Naruto continued, pouting to Nezuko, she alright? She looked scared. She's not badly injured, is she? Oh no, don't worry, Tanjiro replied, she needs a lot of sleep, because of her powers. It's nothing unusual for her. I was worried too, at first, but it's how she manages. And I don't think she was frightened, rather, then it hit him, a smell he had not picked up on, or rather, one that had been there from the start, that he was certain belonged to the demons in the area, but they had been beaten, right? Why was it still there? Was that what Nezuko had tried to say? As Tanjiro realized this, several miles from the trio, a lone figure rested his body on a roof, crouching down as his sight, despite how far away he was, could clearly pick up on the three would-be treats. It would be so easy, the Upper Moon 3, the White Devil Akaza, thought, his fist clenching in anticipation for the slaughter and ensuring feast. I could dismember them all so quickly, and feed the girl their remains, to see if she reacts like what he believes she would. Akaza took a deep breath. Even if demons had no need for it, some habits are harder to kill than others, he supposed. But he's there, and dawn is almost upon us, Akaza noted, deciding to turn around. I'll save killing you for later, Tanjiro, and for your sake, I hope you don't plan on sticking around, Naruto. Then he was gone, as if he had never been there at all. Tanjiro realized the smell had completely vanished, his eyes widening, wondering what had even happened, also, wondering why it seemed so familiar. It's like I've confronted it before. Rather she what? Naruto asked, taking Tanjiro out of his thoughts, did you fall asleep as well? Is that a normal thing for you guys? Well, no, you see, Tanjiro tried, but he didn't know how to fully explain something he didn't fully understand himself, but then, he felt it again, this time a very unfamiliar scent, reeking of booze. There's someone else. Huh. Whoa, easy there champ. Jiraiya appeared right next to Naruto and Tanjiro, effortlessly holding the Slayer's arm in a way that rendered him completely immobile, surprisingly without hurting the injured boy any further or causing him to drop Nezuko. I'm not the enemy, that guy already left. You two siblings are quite something, managing not only to fight like that, but to somehow force Naruto here to use his brains for once. Huh? Who? And where have you been, pervy sage? Doing research, like I told you, the Toad Sannin replied, letting go of Tanjiro and standing proudly in front of the boys. Seemed like some creepy stuff was going down here, but when I found the culprit, you three were already engaging. Would have been disrespectful for me to interrupt that now, would it? Stop scowling, Naruto, you know I'm right, he told the boy. Besides, I felt that if I jumped in, that other fellow would have as well, and I don't think that would have been for the best. Other? Naruto said. Fellow? Tanjiro concluded. Nezuko softly snored. Tired face. She had been dreaming about the boy from her past, about a much happier time, before tragedy struck them all without warning, again and again, completely unrelenting. In her dreams, no one had died. In her dreams, she didn't need to struggle so much to simply return things to a resemblance of normality. In her dreams, she and her friends did not need to suffer so much in a war that they never wanted to be a part of. In her dreams, Sakura Haruno was still happy. Sakura, dear, I'm afraid I must wake you. Sakura heard someone whisper into her ear, and she jolted awake with a fright, her senses still half asleep. What's going on? She screamed, siding right up with her fists extended, fully expecting an attack to come, for some reason, not that she could be too careful these days. The pink-haired kunoichi felt that she had only gone to sleep maybe 2 to 3 hours ago, which would explain why it looked totally dark outside. Regardless, she soon caught sight of her invader, and managed to relax a bit. "Oh, my apologies Lady Katsuyu. Do not worry," the miniature clone of the 5th Hokage personal summon replied, her tone totally calm and soft, as if she had not just freaked the kunoichi out. "I did not mean to wake you up from your much-needed rest my dear, but I'm afraid that Mistress Tsunade requires your assistance at the hospital." "Huh? At this hour?" Sakura whined, but mentally slapped herself and shook her head. She had requested this training after all, and medics could not schedule emergencies. So it didn't matter that she had left her shift in the hospital just hours prior. If they needed her, then they needed her. "No, never mind, I understand, I'll be right there." "Understood," the little slug replied, but she did not vanish immediately. She paused for a bit, as if thinking what to say. "You can take 5 minutes if you wish to wash your face, however. I'm sure the mistress will understand." "My face?" Sakura muttered, then touched herself with her hand. "Ah. I'm a for real." The embarrassed girl got off bed and ran to the bathroom, clearly taken aback by just how much she drooled while she slept. Katsuyu simply gave out a soft chuckle at the child, before she vanished back into her realm, until the next time the Hokage needed her assistance, which, if what she had seen was anything to go by, it would be much sooner than expected. After Katsuyu's clone had vanished, Sakura got ready and raced to meet her master and the current Hokage of the Leaf Village. The legendary slug Sannin Tsunade, being a trained ninja, had its perks, Sakura noted, as she could get dressed a lot faster than she could before, and traveling from one spot to another was child's play. When your legs could move boulders and you could use the walls themselves as roads. A trip which would have taken Sakura 20 minutes when she was younger now took 3, and soon enough Sakura found herself outside of Tsunade's office, not her main one, back in the Hokage's building, but her formal one in the hospital. The pink-haired girl knocked, and was quickly allowed inside, but surprisingly not by Tsunade herself. "What took you billboard brow?" A yawning Ino Yamanaka asked her as she led Sakura inside, covering her mouth with her hand as she instructed her childhood friend to take a seat. "Ah. I don't know what I was thinking following your example of all things. I'm never going to get enough beauty rest working nights like this." "I'm surprised Lady Katsuyu could even manage to wake your sorry ass up," Sakura mocked back, as Ino tried to glare at her but ended up yawning again, deciding she was too tired for their little game. "I wish," Ino replied, "I never made it home. I got called back right on the street next to this one." "Huh? Why?" Sakura asked, realizing that Katsuyu never quite told her why she was needed. "What happened? What are we supposed to be doing?" "Beats me." "Huh? I wasn't told," Ino explained, and Sakura felt even more confused. "I was told to wait here, and that you had been called also, nothing more. Whatever it is, it's probably big, or at least I hope it is. Otherwise it should have waited for tomorrow." "Big is one way to describe it," a young woman spoke up as she entered the office, with both Sakura and Ino being slightly embarrassed at the fact that they never noticed her approaching. "There should be a limit to how much the lack of sleep can dull the senses of a shinobi." "Lady Shizune." Both girls called out to their superior, who offered the kunoichi a soft smile. "I know it's troublesome," the Hokage's personal aide said, "but, please, follow me for a moment. We've never quite seen this before." Shizune led Sakura and Ino all the way down to the morgue, saying nothing as the girls' minds raced regarding the meaning behind the former's words. Sakura, especially, observed everything that was going on, trying her very best to keep her emotions in check, something unprecedented. How bad could it be? It wouldn't be Sasuke, right? "We are heading to the morgue." "Oh please, not him, or Naruto." No, no way, he's with Master Jiraiya, he'll be kept safe." "Damn it, you are no longer a child Sakura, keep calm. Focus so you can do your job properly." Then Shizune stopped and pointed to what it was the girls needed to see, and their resolve was instantly shattered. The morgue had an area outright sealed off, ninjutsu and all, in order to keep everyone away, or safe. Several shinobi stood guard, at almost every angle. Her master, deep in thought, stood in the middle of it all, her eyes hovering the patient laying before her. It was a young boy, no older than Sakura herself. No, that was not right. It had once been a boy, Sakura imagined, but he had been broken so much, left leg missing, all the fingers missing, everything looking like it had been bitten off. Sakura couldn't help but flinch in indirect pain, as she could see that even the poor boy's genitalia had been severed. What is this? What kind of animal would? Ino blurted out, before she caught herself and covered her mouth with her hands, her eyes still conveying the shock that she forbid her lips from saying any more. Lady Tsunade? Sakura asked softly. This young boy was 11, Tsunade explained, her back still to the girls. The viciousness of the attack, of his murder, is not the reason I called you both in here. We have dealt with animal attacks before, be them summons or otherwise, but, the Hokage gave pause, as she turned to her nurses in training. All evidence found within his little body point to it being human teeth that did this damage to him. Sakura could hear Ino gulp at the information given, and Sakura could not blame her. Cannibalism? Within their village even. But the pink-haired girl steadied herself. She didn't come all this way to get squeamish now, so she took a step towards the body, and, sensing this, Ino followed suit, not to be outdone, but, even with a steely resolve, Sakura could not help but be unable to shake a nagging little voice in the back of her head regarding the boy's sorry state. Why does he look, she wondered, a small shiver hitting her body as she began to examine the man, so juicy? She asked, even if it wasn't the right word, the boy's body should already be in rigor mortis, unless he had just been killed in this very room. When was he found, ma'am? Ino asked what Sakura herself was pondering. About 3 hours ago, Tsunade noted, her eyes still glued to the boy's body. Something in her stare worried the girls. Squad 8 found him, like this, and brought him over, but, there was something in their report that was, worrisome, hence, why I called you two over. Oh my god! Ino thought, shivering at the thought of finding such a sad scene after returning home from a mission. Poor Hinata, girl must have fainted on sight. To think someone would mutilate him to such an extent, Sakura voiced, her eyes scanning the body for any clues she may have missed. Hard to do when there was hardly a body to begin with. He's missing so much of his body, Sakura noted, as she pressed her gloved index finger down the poor boy's torso. She felt awful for him, so young. She only hoped once they examined him properly, that at least most of the damage had been done post-mortem. But, what was in the report? Then the boy slowly took hold of Sakura's finger, gently. What the f***? Ino swallowed her curse as she motioned back, beyond frightened at the scene. Tsunade narrowed her eyes. It had been just as Hinata had claimed, in the young Hyuga's own words. Despite how he looked, the boy, through the eyes of the Byakugan, looked like he was still alive. Brain activity still active, some chakra movement still evident. Sakura just stared, hands shaking, as she slowly, softly took hold of the boy's hand. A boy who was missing too much of his body to still be alive, a boy whose heart was no longer beating, a boy whose lungs were no longer breathing, and yet, he held on to her, and he was smiling. Tired face. Don't kill me, I have 3 kids. He shouted, arms covering his face before the killing blow hit. Then he felt nothing hit him. In fact, he could no longer even hear his opponent. So, confused and still oh so very frightened, Zenitsu Agatsuma slowly opened his eyes, and found himself laying in a very comfortable bed, in a nice, quiet, room. He had no idea what was going on. How? Where? Why? What's going on? I was on my mission, about to die, and everything went black. Am I dead? Is this heaven? Why does heaven look so much like the pillar's main quarters? Because that's where you are. Came another shout, which made Zenitsu squirm and shrink into the bed. Before he realized, the menacing voice came not from the bloodthirsty demon that had surely killed him, but rather from a familiar, very attractive, his description, young lady. And can you stop screaming? It's late, and we have other patients, some who actually fight, you know. Oh, my precious Aoi. How I've missed thee. Zenitsu squealed at the sight of his adored female, friend? Partner? Acquaintance? Yeah, probably that. As he moved to glomp her, she quickly planted the sole of her foot on his face, which in turn he enjoyed way more than she wanted him to. I'm not your precious anything, she told him, and piped down, I'm serious. There are 6 slayers all around. You were only admitted because, frankly, we had no idea if you were well enough, and considering it was the first time a person sleepwalked over here. Sleepwalked? Zenitsu repeated, cocking his head to the side in confusion. Wait, but, wasn't I? Your mission was successful, somehow, Aoi explained, likely just as baffled at his success as he was, not sure of the specifics, but I really don't care. If you feel as fine as your girly screams suggest, then get out, you probably have another mission ready. Wait. No. I'm still, aching, like all over. Zenitsu defended, not really wanting to be tossed into that hellhole again after he somehow miraculously escaped. A few more days of being taken care of by these girls would do a soon-to-be-dead man some good. Oh really? A sarcastic Aoi replied, having had enough of this guy's attitude to last her several lifetimes, how she hated guys like him. Perhaps we may need to do more checkups then. Maybe something more invasive in nature, so, drop your clothes. The phrase got him instantly excited, but the moment he turned to his precious Aoi, with stars in his eyes, he saw that she was putting on a pair of very thick gloves, alongside several injections that she had pulled out of thin air. Then he understood what invasive meant to her. Eep. He squealed again, no need for that. I feel like hey, wouldn't you know? I feel so much better all of a sudden. You sure are a great nurse. How can I ever repay you? Get out. She warned, completely annoyed by his antics as she turned around and shut the door, leaving the sweating boy alone to his thoughts. She's got quite a character, he muttered. Hopefully, when I get married, it'll be to someone much warmer and nicer, like my dearest Nezuko. Oh, how I long to be with her again. Who's Nezuko? Tanjiro's little sister, don't you remember? Ah, who's Tanjiro? What do you mean, can't you wait? Zenitsu stopped, his eyes fully wide as his head slowly turned to the other side, opposite the door that Aoi had excited from. To whoever it was had just been speaking to him, he was seconds away from crying. Are you talking about Kankuro? The beast slayer Inosuke Hashibara asked, his tone just as carefree as ever, his expressions camouflaged by the boar mask he almost always wore. It think you are. Tangerine is the one with the sister. Who the hell is Tangerine? Zenitsu screamed at the beast man, but, more importantly, why are you sleeping right next to me? They forced me to get a checkup, Inosuke explained. I told them I was fine, but for some reason they say the body shouldn't lose, what was it, 5 or 6 gallons of blood. I'm not sure what it was they said. You should be deader than me, Zenitsu thought, before he shook his head and decided to simply humor the boar. That aside, isn't it funny how we ended up in the same room again? Kinda makes me miss Tanjiro, so the whole party is together again. I just saw you running back here, so I raced you, Inosuke explained, as Zenitsu felt like he had no idea what he was talking about. I totally won, by the way. I'm sure you did, Zenitsu replied, wondering what the hell had he missed when that demon had knocked him out cold. Had Inosuke not been the one to save him then? Chip. 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 Your bird is ringing, Inosuke informed. Birds don't ring. Zenitsu argued, before he turned towards his little birdie, who had just flown in through the window, just as eager as she usually was. What now? Sending me off to die again. Chip. Another mission huh? So soon too, Zenitsu lamented. They never give me a break. Where to now? Chip. Huh? Zenitsu asked, cocking his head to the side. His bird was pointing her wing towards the boar. Inosuke's coming with me. The boar began to pay attention. Chip. And Tanjiro too? Zenitsu asked again, this time actually sounding happy, which means, Nezuko. The boar understood that. Chip. And Naruto too? Zenitsu asked yet again, still very happy, until, wait, who the hell is Naruto? The boar had no idea. Tired face. The pile of bodies was usually not something he purposely tried to create. He would simply allow the humans to attack him, to attempt to defend and protect themselves. In the end, it was all fruitless. For them, he slaughtered them once he realized they couldn't offer him a challenge, and he would devour them right afterwards. He needed to, he had told him to do so, and he would never betray his orders. Not especially after his latest blunder. The pillar had been one thing, but the boy. The boy with the mark and the earrings and the little demoness on his back, why couldn't he get him out of his head? He never liked killing children, but for him, for this damn kid, he'd happily made an exception. So, as Akaza fed atop a mountain of corpses from the latest batch that had been unfortunate enough to cross his path, way up in a moist cave in the mountains away from the coming sunlight, he felt at peace, for once, his plans and goals now finally having a face, the best way to earn his good graces, and to pay the brat back for that humiliation. The Upper Moon 3 took another bite, but then he sensed something, another human. How sad, he had been fed enough already, so to have to kill again, was almost annoying. My, the human spoke up, a reaction that Akaza had not expected from his would-be prey. Could it perhaps be a slayer? A pillar? You seem like a busy one, and quite the hard man to reach to boot. Do you have some minutes to spare? I'm not in the best mood, Akaza spoke, his tone drenching with venom. I've had my fill, but what is one more? Would you care to try and fight? Or will you run? I'll give you to the count of 5. My, how very generous, Kabuto Yakushi replied, using his middle finger to fix the positions of his glasses. However, I feel that there would be some merit to hearing me out, after all. The Upper Moon 3 stared down at the snake's right-hand man, as both killers began what would in history be called the most horrifying alliance in history. It seems my master wishes to meet your master.